Right, this is Mark here with a response video to Atarileaf's arcade or Mame versus card compilations. Perhaps I should not be making this video because Jeremy actually spoke my mind. I'm in exactly the same ballpark, or how you say that. I'm a retro gamer. I'm also a collector, and the games that I like to play are old arcade games on various systems, and I love to play the various ports of arcade games on various systems. Just the differences. For example, I love playing. I love playing Gyrus. Gyrus on the Commodore 64 was actually the first version of Gyrus that I actually played ever. And whenever I fire it up, I tend to think back to an afternoon where I discovered Gyrus. I actually had a black and white monitor on the Commodore 64, and every once in a while I would sneak downstairs, hook up the Commodore 64 to the big television in the living room, which was a color set, and I would load up my games and finally be able to play them in color and stuff, because I actually had a lot of my Commodore 64 gaming in black and white or green monitor tones. So whenever and one of these afternoons I popped in Gyrus on the Commodore 64, and that just was amazing. The colors, the music, and I remember a friend coming over to play. He's actually one of my Minecraft buddies right now, Mr. Custard, Erwin. And every time I play Gyrus on the Commodore 64, I actually think back to that afternoon. For some reason, it was a defining moment. I think Gyrus must have been, on the Commodore 64, must have been one of these games that really make me think like, wow, this is a very cool shooter. And I was also hooked on Time Pilot. And that's the other way around, because Gyrus I played for the first time on the Commodore 64, and I actually ended up playing it on the arcade machine much later, but I turned out to be pretty good at it. So, and just the slight differences, and the way that the Commodore 64 has less horsepower than the arcade machine. I mean, I like technology. I like programming. I like these old machines, and the Commodore 64 has less horsepower than the arcade board running Gyrus, and that programmers have been able to make the Commodore 64 sing and dance and capture the essence of Gyrus is actually amazing. I mean, I love that. And I mean, playing Gyrus on the 2600, I mean, there's a version of Gyrus on the 2600. And it does the job, and that's something that I just love. And yeah, and I have a thing with Miss Pac-Man. I mean, Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. I think I have that game on just about any system that there is, and just because it's this mythical game. I mean, I played Hoppelaar or Casey Munchkin on the Odyssey 2 or Video Pack first. Sorry, I'm actually way too tired to record this video, but I'm having this big shift. Oh yeah, and Time Pilot. I mean, I'm all over the place. So, Hoppelaar, I played that. That's Casey Munchkin on the Odyssey 2, which is a version of Pac-Man, but totally different. I just love that game. But in my mind it was Pac-Man, because we didn't have the 2600 then. We had the Odyssey 2, and Casey Munchkin actually was Pac-Man. Ms. Pac-Man actually was the first game Miss Pac-Man. Actually, no, it was no, it was not the first. I remember playing Pac-Man for the first time. It was 1982, and we were going to see E.T. in the cinema, and we were having dinner at this, takeaway place, and there was this sit-down Pac-Man machine with the horizontal screen, like the Space Invader arcade cabinet, and every time I play Pac-Man, I think back to that day, because that day my parents were married, like, I believe, perhaps, what is it? They were married a couple, they had their anniversary, and or something, or not sure what it was, but I had fond memories of that evening, and then the other way around. I mean, going back to the gyros. Gyros I played on the Commodore 64 first, and then I discovered the arcade machine, which is a great experience in its own right. A game very similar to that, and I discovered that it actually runs on similar or same arcade hardware, is actually Time Pilot. In Time Pilot, I played in the arcade first, because I was about 14 years old, and that's 1984 for me, when I played Time Pilot when I was away on a sailing camp. Actually, it was the same year that my grandmother died. She got a stroke when I was at that specific holiday camp, and we lost her that year. But Time Pilot really was a great game, and we were grieving, and we had a tough time, and I discovered that there was this Space Pilot game on the Commodore 64, which is a pretty much a arcade perfect port, well, at least perfect enough for me, because it allowed me to go back to that great couple of weeks in the summer of 1984, where I played Time Pilot on the arcade with my friends, and I showed off my skills, because for some reason I was pretty good at Time Pilot, just, without having played it first. I was able to recreate that feeling with a game that really isn't an official port, but just captured the essence. And I mean, played on the ColecoVision. There's a good port of Time Pilot on it as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm all about variation, and I'm all about Go watch Atarileaf's video, because he actually is saying what I'm thinking. So, not a very original video, and Clara or Bessie or the Moo person, and I'm signing off, and this is just perhaps not the most interesting video in the world, but it's just my thoughts about Mame arcade gaming versus collection cards. I mean, I just love those things as well. I mean, of course, I've been emulating Mame perhaps even a bit longer than Atarileaf has been. But yeah, I mean, there's a place for emulation. I use emulation on handhelds and on the Mac Mini. I'm actually installing a Mac Mini. I'm actually trying to turn that into an Amiga, which is possible to some extent, but it takes a lot of effort. And well, this video has a ton of subjects, and let me show you my pickled Commodore 64. Anyways, Mark signing off. I'll be back with another video soon.